I make a motion, oh, sorry, Mary Ellen Balance. I make a motion, we approve the personnel recommendation made by the superintendent.
There's a motion on the floor from Ms. Balance,
Second.
second from Ms. Lawler. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Madam Chair, I move we adjourn
It's a
the
motion,
special meeting.
motion from Ms. Balance to adjourn,
Second, Bob.
second from Mr. Twitty. Any discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. So we are now out of our 4 o'clock meeting. And I believe it's after 5, right?
Yes. It's 5:03.
Okay, sorry. All righty. Okay, Keith, are you ready for us?
Just got a thumbs up.
Thumbs up?
No, we'll just.
We're streaming, huh?
There's probably one
Okay,
more.
we're
Do
ready.
you have a flag here? Do you have a flag? Is there a flag here?
When we do the pledge,
Oh, it's up there. Okay, good. We're good on that one. Okay,
Right there.
we'll start in just a
You
minute.
guys
I
got
need-
glasses?
Kelly,
no. That's what I was going to say. You
Candy.
need eyes in the back of your head to see.
seeing who's here so I can tell people. Who is that? I can't see this far away. Is that Ashley? Yes. Ashley McBride. Okay. Johanna.
Greg.
Greg Florence. That's Sandy, and we're joined by a representative, Southern Shores. And Dr. Parker. Okay. Oh, and our attorney, Brian Shaw. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. Good evening. Welcome to this regular meeting of the Dare County Board of Education. Today is October 13th, 2020, and we are meeting at Kitty Hawk Elementary School, and the time is 5:05. I am B. Bassnight, Chairman of the Board. We welcome all of you who are listening by audio. We wish you could be here in person with us, but due to restrictions of having only 25 people in mass gatherings indoors, we are limited to allowing the public in. We are here in the gymnasium, and we are socially distanced and masked. So we thank you for joining us by phone. Just to introduce and let you know who is in the room, we have, of course, our board members, Mary Ellen Balance, our vice chair, Harvey Hess, Frank Hester, Margaret Lawler, Joe Tauber, and David Twitty. We have our superintendent, Dr. Farley, with us, our attorney, Brian Shaw, and our administrative assistant, Georgia Sellers. Our audio and technology is being covered with Dr. Keith Parker and Maureen Welch. We're happy to have a representative from the Southern Shores Fire Department with us. Welcome. We have our associate superintendent, Sandy Kinzel. We have Johanna Parker. Dr. Greg Florence is here. Dr. Ashley McBride, Kelly Flora, and Candy Tilley. Hope I didn't miss anybody. Got everybody here. So to give you an idea of all those who are present. I ask all board members to please announce yourselves if you speak this evening so people will know who's talking since they cannot see us. I will ask you now to please join me and all of us in a moment of silence. Thank you. As is our tradition, we meet in our schools. We're sorry there are no students here for us to be able to tour the school, but Dr. Florence, thank you for having us here at Kitty Hawk Elementary School. And also we have every board member give the pledge as we move from school to school. Our welcome and our pledge. So tonight, Ms. Margaret Lawler will do that.
I want to thank Dr. Florence and Dr. Colvin for hosting us here. We've been meeting at First Flight High School, which is very nice, but it's nice to be in a new spot. So as we are working towards opening up the schools, I would like to give a huge thanks to Dr. Farley, central office, and all the principals. I know you all are just working 24/7, trying to get everything going, get it ready so that schools can open up safely and very carefully, and I just can't thank you enough. This is going to be like a thank you tour here. And I did want to give a little shout out to Kalita Govan. She is head of nutrition, and since March, she and the cafeteria staff have given out meals twice a week since March, all summer, and now to any of the parents or any of the families that need food, and that's a huge undertaking. And my next group would be the teachers. You are the driving forces or the force of these schools. You run the classrooms, you educate the kids, and I know you're probably wondering how it's going to be going from remote back to face, but I think you're the best in North Carolina, and you have my 100% backing. And to the students, welcome back. We've missed you. It's going to be nice to hear your voices in the hall and have the activity in the schools, and I know that'll be exciting for you. And to our virtual kids, we're going to miss you, but we look forward to seeing you soon. And there's one group that we usually don't talk to, but to the parents, the grandparents, the aunts, the uncles, the brothers, the sisters, who helped all the students while I've been doing remote teaching. Thank you. I know it was probably challenging and might have had problems from now and then, but I'm sure you came away with a renewed respect for all of our dedicated teachers that we have. So school is opening up in a week and a half. So again, I would just like to thank everyone who has made this possible. Thank you. And if you will join me in the pledge, it's, oh, here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Ms. Lawler. I think we all echo your sentiments wholeheartedly. As we move along the agenda, before the next item, I would have a statement I would like to read. We have received a request to amend the agenda in order to revise the personnel consent agenda item 9A. All board members should have a copy of the proposed changes for consideration. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. If not, I would like to request a motion to amend the agenda as requested. Yes. Okay. We have a motion on the floor from Mr. Tauber
Second.
and a second from Ms. Balance. Is there any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please indicate by saying aye, or I need to do a roll call vote. Mr. Shaw? Okay, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
What I was going to say is that if there's a difference in the vote, then we have to identify who voted, but I don't think you have to do roll call. The main thing is the public knows who voted. And if everybody voted aye, then it's not.
Okay, unless we have a split vote. All righty, thank you. All right, as we have amended the agenda, I would like to entertain a motion to approve the amended agenda.
Margaret Lawler. Madam Chair, I move we approve the amended agenda.
It's a motion from Ms. Lawler,
Madam Chair, David Twitty, I second it.
a second from Mr. Twitty. Any discussion? All in favor, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Next item on our agenda would be the announcements. Dr. Farley, you're our announcer this evening, I think.
I'm pinch hitting for Keith Parker, who does a lot of announcements. Thank you, Madam Chair. Just two announcements. I got several things to cover when we talk about reopening of schools, so several of those announcements will surface when we get to that agenda item. Just two I would share is several of our board members know who attended the 5-on-5 meeting. We had a very successful meeting last week with our county commissioners. Ms. Balance, Ms. Bass Knight, Mr. Tauber were there as representatives of the board. Ms. Lawler was in attendance, thank you. And we want to thank our commissioners, had some real healthy dialogue about where we are in Dare County Schools. Very thankful for their support. And we discussed at length a lot of details around the reopening of schools and projecting forward, and just enjoyed the conversation and certainly support of our commissioners. So wanted to share that. And then second item is it's COA, the College of Albemarle tomorrow. There's a ribbon cutting event. They've renovated the welding lab, and at 1:30, anyone's welcome to join us over at COA for a brief ceremony, and I'm sure there'll be several commissioners, elected officials, COA representatives are there. So a lot going on over there besides the demolition and rebuilding, but that event will be at the Professional Arts Building. That's all I have. Thank you.
Oh, okay, thank you. And I want to say that was a great 5-on-5 meeting, and we do appreciate the commissioners for their generous support of our schools. And Dr. Farley did a great job for those of you who were not able to attend in presenting our reopening of schools plan and all that we've been doing in remote learning. So thank you, Dr. Farley, for
Thank
that.
you. Appreciate it.
Our next item on the agenda are recognitions, and Dr. Keith Parker, you're going to share that with us.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We have two recognitions we would like to do tonight. We would like to start by recognizing the Southern Shores Fire Department Chief who's here with us, Mr. Ed Limbacher, who would like to come and speak to the board, but we also want to recognize the partnership that the school system has with the Southern Shores Fire Department, particularly this school, Kitty Hawk, and as they have recently completed a construction project for a new firehouse, we were able to partner with them and have them use a portion of our facilities. But in addition to that, just the relationship we have with local government officials, including the fire department, is really outstanding. And the collaboration that we have, and they're coming into our schools and doing education with our students is also a regular thing as well. So we're very appreciative of the partnership. Wanted to recognize that tonight. So Chief, we're going to ask you to come forward and feel free to say some words to the board.
Well, he stole a lot of my thunder there, but so just wanted to get up here and just thank everyone for giving me a couple minutes to speak. First and foremost, I wanted to say a great big thank you to the Board of Education for the continued support and support throughout the process of building a new Southern Shores Fire Department across from the school here. Without a doubt, without the board's support, we could not have done this project. The facility in the back that we used for operations during that 19 months is where we responded all the vehicles from the entire time, which without that, there was no second choice. You have to put those in a garage somewhere. They can't just sit outside. They have to be in a heated building. So without your support, we could not have done it. I would also like to thank Dr. Farley, Rusker Gaines, as well as Dr. Florence personally for their help throughout the whole process. While it was a painful 19 months, the building turned out beautiful and will serve the Outer Banks community for years to come. Secondly, I just wanted to present this plaque to the Board of Education as a small token of our appreciation from the fire department. And it just basically says, presented to the Dare County Board of Education in grateful appreciation for your support for the Southern Shores Volunteer Fire Department 2020. So I did have this on the back of my sheet here, as we are lucky that we enjoy a very good relationship with Dr. Florence and the school board, and I have no doubt that we'll continue to do that. It's a very good thing for our community as well as everybody involved. So thank you once again, and I appreciate your support. Sure.
Madam Chairman, we'll continue with our recognitions tonight, and to do that, I'd like to ask Principal Greg Florence to come forward, and we're going to share out some staff recognitions for some of the outstanding work that's going on here. So, Dr. Florence, I'm going to let you come forward and recognize some of your staff. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Parker. If any of you get a chance, you need to go across the street and knock on the door of that new firehouse and take a look. Dr. Colvin and I had the opportunity, we took him a housewarming gift last week, and it was full of all kinds of good treats for the guys that spend the night sometimes, but it is quite an impressive facility, built to withstand 140-mile-an-hour winds, just in case. So it's quite a facility. I'm going to recognize a couple employees from last year's awards, our Classified Employee of the Year and our Teacher of the Year. Our Classified Employee of the Year last year was Ms. Shelley Meyer. Again, this is her second time being voted as Classified Employee of the Year, and Shelley is still the Radar O'Reilly of our school. She understands that customer service, whether it's a parent, staff member, student, or community member, is important, and she goes out of her way to make sure the job gets done. She does her job and does it well, all the while being helpful to all. So if you guys could join me in a round of applause for our Classified Employee of the Year, Ms. Shelley Meyer.
Greg, we'll explain to Dr. Parker and Ms. Parker who Radar O'Reilly is a little later.
Is that on Cartoon Network?
I'll fill them in another time. Our Teacher of the Year last year was Ellen Bryson. Ellen was a very couple-month-old new hire when I first came to this building 14 years ago. Gary McDonald, the retiring principal, walked out and said, "This is one of the best things I've ever done for you. You will thank me later." And so I have over the years, every time I see Gary and his granddaughter here in the building. But Ellen's been with us for 13 years, and it's gotten to the point where I pretty much get out of her way. When she walks in my office, I'm ready to say yes, because her high-quality lessons have helped students learn the skills they will need to be lifelong learners for a long time. Ellen's influence reaches far beyond her library media center classroom, developing and organizing programs, learning opportunities across our district and state, from bear caves to taking kindergartners long before remote learning to Yellowstone National Park to speak with the rangers, to South Africa to speak with scientists studying penguins, long before remote learning happened. We were doing this. And she's teaching future library media teachers at ECU as an instructor down there as well. Ellen is an amazing teacher and an amazing individual, and I was super thankful when we adjusted our schedule last year and made that happen, and she became eligible for Teacher of the Year because I knew she had a decent shot at everything she does in this building and outside of this building. And so we were super excited when it was announced that Ellen was our District Teacher of the Year for Dare County. And we had a big hoop, roaring celebration, socially distanced, of course, but we did make a big deal of that. And she will be heading to regionals very soon. Dr. Farley wrote a great letter for her, as did I. And I think she's got a great shot at Regional Teacher of the Year. So if you could join me in a round of applause for Ellen Bryson.
Thank you, Dr. Florence. Madam Chair, that concludes our recognition tonight.
Okay, thank you. And congratulations to all those folks recognized. Well deserved. Our next item on the agenda, instructional highlights. Ms. Kelly Flora.
Good Good evening, Madam Chair, Madam Vice Chair, Dr. Farley, and distinguished school board members. Tonight, our instructional highlight focuses on social-emotional learning. Now more than ever, it is imperative to ensure the social-emotional well-being of our students and staff. Our school counselors and psychologists have worked diligently to provide specific activities, lessons, and guidance throughout the remote learning process to our classroom teachers. Tonight, we will showcase the efforts here at Kitty Hawk Elementary School. So without further ado, I would like to introduce to you again, Dr. Greg Florence.
Good evening again, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Farley, colleagues, and guests. Social emotional learning has quickly become a new focus for educators across the nation. And now, more than ever, social emotional learning is taking center stage as we work to reinvent school during this global pandemic. When we weave social emotional learning lessons into our day, we are teaching children about their emotions, what they mean, and how they make us feel. We're also teaching our children life skills about setting and achieving goals, showing empathy for others, how to develop and maintain positive relationships, and how to act responsibly. A systematic approach to social emotional learning intentionally cultivates caring, participatory, and equitable learning. This approach infuses social and emotional learning into every part of the students' daily lives, across all their classrooms, during all times of the school day, and when they are in their homes and out in their communities. It's a pretty simple concept. When students are emotionally balanced, they are engaged, and when they are engaged in learning, learning improves. When social emotional learning is deliberately and systematically embedded into the elementary school day, research shows there are improved lifetime outcomes for young adults in later years. Over the summer, our school counselor, Charlotte Heroux, and our school psychologist, Missy Schmidt, co-chaired a district social emotional learning committee that identified SEL best practices and shared those practices with school counselors across the district. Fifth grade teacher Kim Whitehurst has some thoughts on our SEL lessons and the character traits they promote.
To kind of get to know them and to talk about things such as honesty and perseverance and kindness and how do you deal with your frustrations? What frustrates you may be different than what frustrates somebody else. We've talked about organization. We've talked about, self-control. We have really enjoyed having these videos and using them every morning to have some good discussions with our students.
Our elementary counselor group has taken these best practices and created and continues to create monthly SEL calendars with daily activities for teachers to implement during their class meetings. The intent in creating these resources was to help facilitate conversations in a remote environment that would naturally be occurring if we were learning in person. Each week, daily lessons focus on one of the SEL competencies: self-awareness, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and responsible decision-making. These SEL calendars and lessons were designed to help the classroom teacher address SEL needs and can be used for class meetings, brain breaks, or assigned to students to watch and complete each day of the week. It was designed to be flexible and easy for teachers to use. Fourth grade teacher Cheryl Hancock shares how our SEL lessons have blended beautifully with the fourth grade read aloud, Wonder.
Mrs. Heroux was doing all these lessons, and
it has really been cool to see how her questions have coincided with where we are and as we read Wonder. And it has just opened up this rich dialogue among the kids and with us. And it has just been a blessing to have these lessons available to us.
Our KHES Positive Behavior and Intervention Support Team developed our yearly PBIS theme, Be the I in. And this year we focused on weaving SEL into our PBIS programming. Each month, as part of our PBIS programming, we focus on a different character trait. You may notice that the ones up there all have the letter I in them. Our goal is for students to learn about and demonstrate each trait in their daily lives at school, in their homes, and out in the community. Each day during morning announcements, an SEL thought of the day is presented, ending with a question for students to consider how they can be the I in the character trait for that day.
Growing and keeping healthy relationships. Relationships take work, and both people in a relationship or friendship need to do their part. I hope you have a great Thursday, and think about what are some ways you can work on your relationships to keep them healthy. Have a great day, guys.
During our remote learning since we opened in August, morning announcements are followed by a class meeting where the daily SEL thought of the day is discussed and the daily SEL lesson is presented. Fifth grade teacher Ellery Sigler talks about our SEL lessons and how we're growing better humans.
My students and I are so thankful for the SEL lessons that we are able to do each morning in our homeroom. It gives us a chance to connect on a deeper level since we are not here in the building. We are also really excited to find some of these character traits in our ELA lessons in the characters that we're reading about. And we love our daily challenges of ways to reflect and be better humans in the world.
Since we began this year with everyone learning remotely, our PBIS team wanted to make sure we were still connecting to all of our students while they were learning at home. Each month, our PBIS team produces an SEL newsletter that goes home to parents. These newsletters provide parents with the monthly character trait, conversation starters, links to topic read-alouds, and suggestions and examples on how they can be the I and demonstrate the month's character focus in their community. Our KHES PBIS program has always been about creating a culture and environment where social, emotional learning and practice can take place. This year, we've been more intentional using our existing PBIS framework and strategies to support SEL. For example, for years, our SOAR awards help us acknowledge students who soar. Stay safe, offer help, act responsibly, and respect yourself and others. Our school counselor, Charlotte Heroux, did a really super cool, amazing thing when she leveraged Google Suite along with some add-ons and created a student SOAR form for teachers to fill out. They fill out the SOAR award that recognizes the students for soaring behavior, and when the teacher clicks submit, the email is automatically sent to the parent with the student's individual and personalized SOAR award, indicating what the student did and what soaring behavior was noticed. Being able to continue this recognition during remote learning has really helped build connections and relationships while we are not together in the building. In fact, if each of you have checked your email recently in the past hour and a half, you should have each received a SOAR award in your inbox. Thank you very much for this opportunity, and please don't forget to be the I in. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Florence. That is extremely impressive, and I can't wait to check my email. That's so exciting for the parents to see that positive reinforcement right away. I love that idea. It's great. Next item on our agenda is public comment, and I believe we have had some public comment submitted. Is that correct, Dr. Parker? So I'll read a statement prior to that. The Dare County Board of Education welcomes comments from our parents, students, and community. The public comment period is open for members of the public, including parents and students, to voice compliments, concerns, or complaints about performance of school personnel, implementation of board policy, the quality of the education program, or school facilities. Each person or organization is granted 3 minutes for his or her presentation. This portion of the meeting is for the board to hear matters of interest from the public. However, obscene, vulgar, or profane statements and statements reasonably perceived to be disruptive or imminently threatening to the orderly operation of the meeting shall not be permitted. And as we are virtual this evening, Dr. Parker, will you read the public comment for us, please?
Yes, ma'am. Madam Chair, we received one public comment prior to tonight's meeting, and it is from Ivy Cage, and here is the comment. Please listen to my solution in the video to add an announcement after the national anthem explaining our respect and love for our local history. A different student could read it at every home game. This would open conversations and keep our historical past alive. Canceling our mascots would not do either of those things. Thank you, Ivy Cage, class of 2022. And that is the only public comment we received.
Okay. Thank you very much for reading that, and thank you to Ms. Cage. We'll move to the next item, which is the approval of our consent agenda, which includes our personnel consent agenda, the minutes from the September 8, 2020 special meeting and the September 8, 2020 regular meeting.
Madam Chair, can I address something in terms of the minutes? Okay with that, Georgia? Was I looking at the minutes from?
Put your microphone on, yes.
Sorry, this is Joe Tauber, and I was talking the 8th of September.
It was September 8th for the
Yeah, I'm
minutes we
looking at
have
those
here.
minutes, and the third paragraph, and I'm asking that we take out some of the language there, and on the third paragraph where it says the board then held a lengthy discussion about the motion made by Mr. Hess, and after considering, and I'm saying put the motion and excluding the language, all the components necessary to reopen it should be safely, I guess, in such a short time frame. The motion was denied. So I'm just saying, considering the motion, and then the motion was denied, because I don't think it fairly represents what Mr. Hess and I were trying to do in terms of the motion.
So we would mark that as a correction to the minutes? Mr. Shaw, okay.
Otherwise, it's perfect.
I'm sorry?
Otherwise, it's perfect.
Okay. Mr. Shaw, do we need a motion to make a correction of the minutes before we, does that need to be included? A separate motion from the consent agenda?
Okay.
Okay, well, all right.
I'll make that motion. This is Harvey Hess, Madam Chair. I'll make that motion that we correct the minutes as stated by Mr. Tauber, and that we do, that's the motion.
That's
that
the
we
motion.
correct the
And
minutes.
this is for the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting or special meeting?
September 8th, 2020 regular meeting, that we correct that language, yes.
Wait.
Second, Madam
Second.
Chair.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Hess, a second from Mr. Tauber to correct the wording in the third paragraph of the meeting, of the minutes from the September 8th. He said regular meeting, correct?
Go to page 13.
Okay, I will open the floor for discussion on this motion.
Can we get some clarity on what's being suggested for the change?
Yes, okay. Mr. Tauber, would you mind explaining that one more time for us? So, and everybody can have a chance to find it and look at it.
The third paragraph of the board minutes for September 8th indicate.
And are you talking about the regular meeting, or we had a special meeting that day as well?
I think that would be the regular.
Yeah, I think it was regular.
It's the regular meeting, okay.
Right. And the paragraph says the board then held a lengthy discussion about the motion made by Mr. Hess, and after considering all the components necessary to reopen schools should be safely, I guess, in such a short time frame. And the motion
that Harvey made, and I second, was that the language should say, and after considering the motion was denied by a vote of 5-2, taking out the language, all the components necessary to reopen schools safety in such a short time frame.
This is
Does that
Brian
clarify?
Shaw.
Huh?
This is Brian Shaw. I had a hard time following where you were, Joe. It's
Third
on
paragraph.
It's the last page of the minutes, right? The third paragraph on the last page, just above the
It's
signature
page
line.
13.
It's on page 13 in the document online.
Okay.
That's it, Brian.
Do you see it? Okay.
Okay, so the motion has been made by Mr. Hess and seconded by Mr. Tauber, and the floor is open for discussion of the motion.
I wanted to say, considering the motion, and then the motion was denied by a vote of 5-2. In other words, exclude the language, all the components necessary to reopen school safety in such a short time frame.
What if you say?
Why would you want to, that was what the discussion was about.
Because that's an interpretation, I think. That wasn't really, I just think it's unnecessary language that we talked about. I mean, that's an interpretation. I don't think that's really what happened. We had a motion.
Right.
The motion was denied. But
But the lengthy discussion about the motion is the ability of the administration to get together what needed to happen in a short time frame.
well, that was my understanding of it, to tell you the truth. So that's why I'm bringing up that the language, I think, is inappropriate under the circumstances.
That Harvey has, I just think that we did not discuss every issue that was a part of the components of reopening the schools, and to say that we did all of that and then the motion was denied or voted against, I think insinuates that everything was considered, and everything, in my opinion, was not considered.
So if we took out the word all, that would take care of your concern?
Does that work for you?
All the components necessary?
If you just said considering the components necessary and not put in the word all. It's just a suggestion.
Or change all to some.
Yeah, some.
Yeah, because that's what the discussion was about.
Right. Well, what
So it
it
gives
would
a point of
entail in
reference.
order to get.
It was some, but it wasn't an exhaustive discussion. It was a discussion that lasted a few minutes, but not an exhaustive discussion. And so I agreed that if we remove the word all and put some, or
Just remove the word.
eliminate.
Just considering the components.
Just considering the motion without going to say everything was considered.
So we do have a motion on the floor to reword the minutes by taking out, Mr. Tauber, tell me again, which one to take out? Okay, so the motion on the floor right now is to remove that part of the sentence. So I think we will vote on that motion at this time,
Unless you want to restate the motion.
unless you want to
frankly,
amend your motion.
Do you want to amend your motion?
Mr. Hester, do you wish to speak?
I just have another question, because
made the motion.
it seemed like by removing the word all, that we would get to the same point, because that further continuation of the sentence is what the discussion was about.
Correct.
Right.
So with that being removed from it, I don't know if that would make sense to people coming behind us.
Right.
So we can talk about, we did have a discussion about reopening the schools safely, and take out the part that we discussed all, because there's always other stuff to talk about.
I agree.
What's the original motion?
Yeah. This is Harvey Hess. My original motion was to remove certain words that were there. The concern was that we had an exhaustive discussion of all the issues that were in place for reopening the schools. And in my remembrance or recollection, we did not exhaustively go through that. We went through certain portions of that. So if we remove that all was done and that we simply had a discussion about the safety of reopening schools, that would satisfy my motion.
Okay, so Who made the original motion? I'm lost. Mr. Tarver, did you make the original motion?
No, I made the,
I had
Harvey.
the discussion, he had. the
Harvey
motion.
has,
Okay.
I made the motion.
Okay.
Do you want me to restate my motion? Would that?
Can you amend your motion?
I
think?
would be glad to amend my motion
Okay.
to say that we had a discussion, but to remove the word all, as Board Member Hester said, that would satisfy me.
Okay, so the motion has been amended to remove the word all. The minutes from the September 8th regular meeting. And does your second still stand?
I'll second that.
Okay. Any other discussion?
Madam Chair, while we're on that sentence, it's grammatical, but we may want to change the word safety to
Yes.
safely.
Okay, that can be, we'll amend the
As,
motion to do.
as part of my motion is that we change any grammatical errors
Perfect,
that are there. All right,
okay.
thank you.
And the second still stands?
I'm not a
Okay. Any
English
oth-
teacher, but I agree.
I got it
All right.
too. Okay, any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right, so we'll continue with the items that are in the consent agenda. So we are revising that. We have amended minutes to the September 8th, 2020 regular meeting. We have under finance, budget amendments. Under other, we have approval of voting delegates for the school year 2020-2021, and these are voting delegates at the North Carolina School Boards Association, which will be held virtually this year. And I have talked, it's in your list, the people that have been recommended for as delegates, Mr. Twitty, Mr. Tauber, Ms. Lawler, and Mr. Hester, with an alternate, Ms. Allens. It will be, as I said, virtual, and the two dates that you will need to be available would be November 4th and January 7th. Georgia, did you ever hear any more information about times or any? No. We haven't gotten all the details from the North Carolina School Boards Association, but I've talked to each of those people individually, and they've all agreed to serve. And all of you received emails from Georgia about the registration for the conference. The next item is the interlocal agreement between the County of Dare and Dare County Schools for management of funds from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. And we have a resolution for changes to the 403B plan. That is our consent agenda. I will entertain a motion.
Madam Chair, I move we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, it's a motion from Ms. Balance to approve the consent agenda.
Madam Chair, David Twitty, second.
A second from Mr. Twitty. Is there any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. Item 10 on the agenda, reports and items for information. Dr. Farley, you're going to talk to us about the reopening of schools.
Thank you, Madam Chair. So a lot to cover. Just as a reminder, the 21st to the 23rd will be work days. October 26th, we will be back in session with grades 3 through 5 reporting that first week. As you recall, we have a staggered schedule. 6-12 will begin the hybrid schedule process. And also during that week, we are going to be sending out, elementary schools are going to do a preschool and kindergarten orientation during that week. And so each of those 5 days, we are going to stagger parents and preschool and kindergarten teachers to come in, 4 or 5 families per day per classroom, and do an orientation. We're also going to do an orientation at the elementary school for new students. As you know, by the direction the board decided to take at our last meeting, November 2nd, we'll have all students back in school. This is a follow-up because we got a couple of emails from parents following the our last meeting. Just to emphasize the choice to go with the hybrid on a Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday schedule. That was really wrapped around our ability to be in a position over the next 9 weeks or however long we're on this model to bring in students on Wednesdays and provide some remediation and extra help for students. And when we are in a position where we have students in on Monday and Tuesday, that gives us an opportunity to assess needs and organize assessments for children and group children together. So some districts are going Monday, Tuesday with a cohort, Thursday, Friday. These are reasons why we decided to go with the Monday, Thursday, Tuesday, Friday split. Our administrators are also in favor, and also keep in mind, in our staff focus groups, we spoke with 100 and some odd teachers and got positive feedback on this. Our administrators are also in favor. Dr. Parker's bringing me a new microphone. Too much. Yeah. Thank you. Test. Okay, good. Thank you. We also wanted to decrease the amount of time in face-to-face delivery. So if students went to school on Monday and Tuesday, they're going 5 days without face-to-face instruction. So that was another one of our strategies. And of course, on those Wednesdays, besides extra remediation or extra help for students, we'll be doing some additional sanitizing in the buildings, and teachers will, and they're going to need it, a lot of planning on Wednesdays as well. Couple updates. We've been meeting almost on a daily basis with our core team of our senior leadership team, all our directors, our principals, our assistant principals, pretty much on a daily basis. Quick child nutrition update, beginning on Wednesday the 28th for families that are in virtual. There's a few chuckles for you, those of you at home, because my mic was dropping. We will begin to feed families on Wednesdays, and we will provide hot food for the day, and then assorted other foods that families can pick up and take home if they choose to with the virtual option. We've got 3 sites where we'll deliver. Our parents can come by and pick up, and those are First Flight High School, Manio Middle School, and Cape Hatteras Secondary School. Want to encourage, for those that are listening, and I sent out an email late this afternoon to parents with a lot of updates. We need parents to follow through with the registration if they need bus transportation. So we sent out about 10 days ago a process for them to register if they hadn't already. Some of our parents have had access for a couple of months to go into a platform called InfoSnap where they could register. Many of them did that prior to even August. But to ensure that parents still want to have their children transported by bus, we're asking them to go in and do that in short order. We've also sent home a registration. This is mandatory for all staff and students with our health screening app. So as we discussed in our last board meeting, we've got a system and a platform that will send out a text message every morning to all staff. All parents of K-8 and then parents who are in 9-12 have a choice to either have their student, if they have a cell phone, answer those 3 questions, and or the parent may do that. And so that's a required registration that we really need to pick up our registration process over the next 10 or 12 days to ensure that that's happening. This is not the best mic in the world, but we'll keep plugging along. You all can get a chuckle as I have microphone problems. Yeah, thank you, Joe. Yeah, just hold on to it.
Yeah.
Central office will be ribbing me a lot tomorrow. I guarantee it. Back to real world. We have installed all of our thermal temperature units. So as you came through the building this afternoon, you got a sample of that. And so that's gone very well. We're pleased and we're very thankful for the county who supported that initiative in buying all those units for us. Our principals had their logos and decals with all the signage, the 3W, social distancing, were delivered, and we'll be installing those at each school over the next week. They look great. They've got school logos. We've got plenty of signage and decals that'll be going around. We have invested in you've probably seen these plexiglass partitions that you can purchase to put into classrooms. And so the idea is to have a partition. I think they're generally about 3 feet or 4 feet by 3 feet. And the concept is a little isolation. see-through. We've not bought these or purchased these for every single classroom. Rather, where we really have a need is in some of our exceptional children's classrooms, and we've actually also bought 5 for every elementary classroom. And that's primarily because part of our daily 5 literacy stations and circles, students are grouped closer together in small, typically kidney-shaped tables, and we've shared this information with several of our teachers, and they're very interested in having that as an option. If we get some, and that's, we're purchasing a bunch, they're available. Not sure delivery yet, definitely before school, I believe. Sandy, 5 days? Great. And if we do have teachers that want to have more than 5, we can certainly do that because they're pretty affordable.
Dr. Farley, this
yes,
is
sir.
Harvey Hess. I just want to say that the system that's in operation for detecting folks coming in to the school, I was given a firsthand example this afternoon. I was tagged on that because I did not have
a
my
mask. Yeah.
I did not have my mask over my nose. Dr. Florence arrested me at the door. But I would look at the screen, and it had all the faces that had come in there, all the multiple faces, and mine had a big red cross over top of it right there, which may have looked better to some people, but it just gave me a good example of how effective that system is. And I think everybody should, the people that are listening out there, I'm just telling you, he caught me right at the door, so it was a good example for me. Yeah.
Appreciate it. I'm glad Greg gave you your get out of jail free card.
Thank you, Greg.
Thank you for sharing that. Next, arrival and dismissal. So our schools will be sending out the bell schedules. The schedules are pretty close to what they've been previously, even though we're running some double runs. We are going to have, in a few schools, 10 minutes of variance, but they're pretty close to what they've been before. So that's good news. We're also going to be sending out procedures for each school in the morning time and the drop-off. And what we're highly recommending to parents is that they drop their kids off. As you know, we're limited with really no visitors unless it's by appointment in the morning, and so that we can better socially distance in the morning, and we prefer if everyone does use their drop-off procedure. However, preschool parents will have a certain location where they can walk their child to a door, typically a cafeteria, depends upon the layout of the school. And we also know we do have some challenges in a few schools where parents have to park, say at Nags Head at Dowdy Park, or out on Wrightsville Avenue. Depending upon the location of the school, generally not so much an issue with first flight parking because there's more available. Some of our schools, we're gonna, well, in all our elementary schools, we're gonna have a drop-off zone. So if a parent, so as an example, we have parents who can't, who, you know, with the timing in the morning, with the long loops, prefer to park and walk. Instead of walking all the way to the door where we have all these students congregating, we're going to have some drop-off zones where they can walk their child up to a certain point near the school, let them go, and then the child can progress in, and I think that will help us with social distancing. So we are doing it at the elementary school, and we're going to provide maps for parents, and some of our schools may do videos. Some of our principals, many of them have done a great job of some really good illustrations. We're going to be consistent with those procedures. We've strategized in the evenings when we are dismissing. You know, a lot of our schools, you got all these kids running out, and parents are picking up their kids, and combinations of walking them to the car versus, you know, the car line and so on. We're going to ask our kids to cut down on, you know, with our concerns with social distancing, to keep their masks on until they get in the car. Okay, so when they come out of a building, there's really no, it's very difficult in a school this size to have all the kids come out and socially distance. Obviously, that's almost impossible. So we're talking about maybe some alternate locations where, so like at Manual Elementary School, there's 4 or 5 classes that have doors to the front side of the building, and we could have a process where some classes are coming out of there. We're putting down, we've got this socially distanced tape that we can put down on sidewalks with 6-foot social distancing to spread kids out to the best of our ability. If everyone wears a mask, that's very helpful. And so some of our procedures, we're tightening. And again, every parent will hear from his or her principal over the next week with specific school protocol. But we're trying to be consistent as we can, but also knowing that some of our buildings are laid out differently. So, but each school will have a drop-off and pickup zone. PPEs, we've really over the summer, even before July 20th, have distributed several PPEs to every single school. We've got plenty of sanitizing, hand sanitizer. The state provided every student with a 5 washable masks. So as we communicate with parents and talk about masks, and it is a mandate unless you have an exemption, unless you're less than 5 years old. Students can wear the kind of gaiter face coverings or their own mask as long as it is a face covering. Shields are not allowed unless you have a exemption and you choose just to wear the shield, or if you wear both a face covering and a shield. So we're getting all these procedures out. Yes, Ms. Balance.
Mary Ellen Balance. Is there, for somebody who has a child that they need an exemption for,
Yes.
how do they go about doing that?
Ms. Kinsler, would you like to talk about staff and student exemptions, please?
Sorry to put you.
And you can get the trusty mic here. Yeah, please, by all means, go to the lectern.
We'll use this mic. During our meeting today, we discussed some of the protocols that we're going to put in place. Earlier in the school year, we released a guide for remote learning, and we accompanied that by a guide that talked about returning to work safely. Dr. Parker and I are going to be working on that and revising it to include returning to school and work safely. In that guide, we outlined some of the procedures, the cleaning, the requirements for the mask and so forth. And in that document, we're going to place, well, it's already in there, for the staff members who may need an exemption or accommodations. We will be including the link to the students form, which instead of coming through my office, will go to the principal. And then the principal will then be able to share that information if it's approved. And the medical portion of that will have to be accompanied by a doctor's note to verify that. And then the principals will then pass that information on to the teachers so that they're aware that there's an exemption in place, and then talk with the bus drivers of the students so everyone knows that there's an exemption in place.
That application will be in the guidebook?
It will be.
And when is the guidebook coming in?
It has been sent out previously, so we have
being
gotten
revised.
that out.
Oh, it's being revised. Gotcha.
That particular form, though, we're going to make sure that the principals have handy so that it can be shared if it comes up as a question and specifically asked for.
Good. Thank you. Mm-hmm.
And for those who need masks, we'll distribute masks. There'll be a slew of masks at the school. Every classroom will have extra masks. Every school bus will have masks. And we're talking about some procedures also, because we know that there are some masks that if you go on Amazon might have like a little Halloween character, or worse in some spots. So we've had some dialogue about, we're trying to plan for every possibility. Mm-hmm. Aligning some language around our dress code policy that has to do with face masks, because it is Halloween time of year, and we could have some kids who come to school with a werewolf example face mask, and that may not be the best way to proceed and have a productive school day. So, picnic tables. So we came up with the idea because we want to get kids outside as much as we can, both eating and having time in outdoor classroom settings. We're in the process of acquiring 50 picnic tables. We're going to distribute 10 to each elementary school and start there. Of the 50, 25 our maintenance team will make. It takes a tremendous amount of time for them to do that, and then the other 25 will purchase. And we're very fortunate, as the board members who attended the 5-on-5 meeting, we've received about $1.1 million since March, we're going back to when COVID first began in COVID-related assistance. So a lot of things that we've paid for, PPEs, technology, a lot of these things, although the funds are starting to dry up, we have been very fortunate to have access to COVID-related funding. And just as a side note, we won't take donations. We have a very giving community, but we won't take donations for picnic tables because we have to meet ADA spacing requirements, and there's some restrictions there. Once we get the elementaries phased in, then we're going to move to the middle school for those schools that would like to get some extra picnic tables, and or high schools. And if they aren't too interested, then we may even get more out to the elementary school. So we're trying to balance the budget and our ability to make tables. All of our schools will be building in mask breaks during the day. Could be 10 minutes, 15 minutes during recess, and that will be K-12. Virtual. So, as you know, we have tremendous challenges with scheduling between pre-K-5 coming every day, a 6-12 hybrid, some kids on remote, a lot of kids on remote 6-12 on their days when not traditional, and then also staffing the mandated virtual school. To date, the numbers change daily, and they probably will for the next several months. We have about 1,200 students who've registered for virtual. So we have to staff virtual, and we have to staff virtual with Dare County school teachers, obviously. So we have been going through for 2 days after our registration process technically ended. And again, that was a soft deadline because we have to keep the program open the way the current state mandate is written. We just can't shut down an ability to go into virtual or to go into traditional. That still has to be on the table the way the state mandate is currently written. But we encourage parents to register and having a soft deadline so we could start staffing. And that's what we've been doing for almost 3 full days. And so we've had to take all those 1,200 students, figure out what grades they're in, what schools. It's really tricky at the high school level because we typically offer about 115, 120 courses. And so it's been a tremendous undertaking. When we start to staff, and I'll kind of go through an elementary synopsis or analysis, and then middle and high school, we have to look at all the certifications of our teachers. We had about 50 teachers who applied to teach virtually. Not all those teachers will actually teach virtually, particularly at the high school level. Currently, and this can change day by day as we get towards really a Friday at 5 p.m. deadline, because we've communicated to parents on Monday they will get a call from their new teacher if they're in virtual. Or if we've had to move teachers from traditional to virtual, someone has to serve the children. So we have about 500 elementary kids who are in virtual, and there's less than 200 students in our traditional schools who will have a new teacher because their teacher has opted to go virtual or agreed to go virtual. So at the elementary level, we have about 17 teachers across the district in the 5 elementary schools. Most schools have about 3 because the size of the staff. Manual Elementary School has more. I believe there's 5 current traditional teachers, and there's a couple of teachers who are certified who are in different roles, say as a Title I reading specialist. There's some / positions where we're placing teachers. And I'll get back to a little bit more on elementary here in a moment, but big picture is the parents will be notified on Monday of who their virtual teacher is, and we're also having teachers directly contact any teacher who is going to be new for that child returning traditionally. Okay, so here's an example. If we've got 3 teachers at Kitty Hawk Elementary School who are in the 2nd grade, and one of the teachers is now serving 23 kids in virtual, okay? We take all the kids who are left in that grade level, subtract the kids who've gone virtual, and then we have to distribute. So some of our traditional teachers will have typically about 3 or 4 new students who do go to that school. Okay, so that makes sense? Mm-hmm. If you look at the staffing of virtual, just K-5 right now. K-5 is averaging about 18 or 19 kids per virtual classroom. And even with adding 3 or 4 students to the traditional teacher's load, those numbers are still balancing relatively low at 18-ish. So it depends on the grade level. 4th and 5th grade or higher. K3, we have to stay, regardless of whether you're traditional or you're virtual, with the class size limits, okay? So there's a lot of balancing in trying to schedule all the needs. And this will continue as long as virtual is an option and as long as the door is open to go and get into virtual or to come out of virtual and go traditional. So it's complicated, okay? And it's likely to change. If we get a couple of cases in a school, it's possible, and we've talked through some of these scenarios previously, that we get some parents who want to put their kids in a virtual program. So now we've got to figure out how we're going to serve those kids. And we have to still meet the K-3 class size mandates, which currently is 21. If we get to 22, we get to 23, we'll have some patience because we could see kids go both ways. That number could be 21 one day, it could be 19 a week later, it could be 23 4 weeks later. We do have some flexibility with our librarians and instructional technology facilitators for where we have some overfill in class sizes and need to meet with kids. We've got some very talented, we've got several teachers at the middle school level who are actually elementary certified, and all of our instructional facilitators and all of our librarians have various certifications. So we do have some flexibility with those positions, particularly because Dare County Schools is one of the few schools in the district, or excuse me, school systems in the state that actually has an assistant in every media center. So that does offer us some flexibility there. So my message is it's really tricky, but we've spent several hours and now several days in trying to figure out all the intricacies so we can best serve kids virtually and in traditional modes. Most of our EC students will be served still by their current exceptional children teacher. So, and our teachers have really stepped up to say whether they're virtual or not. We think it makes sense for continuity with parents to still work with us. We still have to follow the IP. We still, that connection and relationships is essential. And so most of our exceptional children's teachers will still follow their students and serve them, whether they're virtual or in school. So that's a plus. Our elementary and middle and high school platforms will remain the same for continuity with our teachers. So when we started in remote, our elementary teachers were K2 using Seesaw, 3.5, Google Classroom. Got most of it. And then 612 has had the choice of the Canvas platform or Google. So our teachers will keep the platforms for continuity, and if there is some students who are being served, we should be pretty solid as far as continuity goes. If there are some students where they were being served by a teacher in Google Classroom and now they're in Canvas, then we've got training that we've got to do, and that'll be the responsibility of the classroom teacher working with Dr. McBride. The schedule for virtual will be pretty close elementary-wise to what it was like with remote, except we have to change reading groups because we have kids coming in at different levels. So those times could shift some, but the schedule elementary that day looks pretty similar to the remote experience. What else? Our elementary students who've been reassigned, again, that number's less than 200. Most of our schools, our elementary schools, are in the 35 to 40 student range who will have a new classroom teacher. And that's really unavoidable. I mean, we're being asked to build a 1,200 student virtual school, and the only way to give them a highly qualified teacher is to move teachers around. So that's one of the outcomes of the model that we're working under and the conditions. My bet, our best preferred scenario that is now a dream would be every student starts with their same teacher and continues through the entire school year. Unfortunately, with the conditions of COVID, remote, traditional, virtual, some of these things are unavoidable. Not preferred, but we've talked extensively about the challenges regardless of the model. Middle and high school. So while elementary currently has about 17 full-time teachers who will be assigned virtual, it's much less at the middle and the high school level because we don't have as much of a need for these large core classes. So at the middle and high school level, we'll have about 10 full-time teachers. And in our teacher application process, 2/3 of those teachers who applied were middle and high school teachers. So there's several teachers who applied to teach virtual where they will still be teaching virtually. When we honed in on trying to schedule, it's very tricky at the middle and high school level because of the broad array of classes. We've really tried to focus in on the core classes that have to happen. We have got different modes of delivery. So some will be synchronous, where we can do that. An example is because of certification, we don't have a lot of teachers that are certified to teach all AP classes. Okay, so because of certification, those are classes that we have to go synchronous. Okay, CTE is another area. So we do have some, so there's rhyme and reason between synchronous versus not. And a lot of it has to do with teacher certification and student enrollment. Of the 10 teachers who are full-time virtual, 6 of those are at the middle school and 4 will be teaching cores at the high school. Because we have such a broad, if you take all those 600 students, middle and high school, or 700 students, and you spread them out and look at all their courses, we might have 2 students who need this course, we may have 4 students who need this course. There's no way we can assign a full-time virtual teacher because there's not that need. So we have a combination of synchronous delivery, asynchronous. We've got a lot of kids who are juniors and seniors who are taking COA classes at virtual public schools. We've got an Apex platform. We've got recorded lessons. So there's various approaches dependent upon the class and the mode of delivery. Ms. Balance.
Just for clarification, can you explain the difference between synchronous and asynchronous?
Yes. So synchronous, think about synchronous that it's a live Google Meet. So, you've all been involved in Google Meets and you're in some live session where someone's on the other side of the screen and you're communicating. And so in synchronous world with teaching, all our teachers have laptops with web cameras and they have an ability, so we've purchased Bluetooth speakers for teachers that are going to teach synchronously. They would have their camera pointed at them while they're delivering live instruction and piping that home to students who are on the other side at home in a live lesson. Now, it's not perfect because the student who's at home probably or most likely will not hear other students in the class, in the give and take in class, but they would be able to hear the direct instruction that's going on. And it's tricky because if you're pointing that camera and you're at the front of the class, then you're not going to be able to circulate. And you can make the case with COVID and social distancing, there's not as great a need. But synchronous delivery is that we are delivering live instruction via the web and whatever the mode of delivery may be, Google Meet or other, WebEx, whatever it may be. Asynchronous is when you're getting a recorded lesson or you're being assigned lessons that a student goes into a platform and they can access these reading materials and these assignments. So when you think about synchronous, it's live, okay? We don't have an ability to do that for every single lesson in every single class. And part of it is, so when you're on a hybrid and you're teaching 2 days a week live and the other 3 are remote, the pacing is different based upon the students that you're serving. So it is a challenge. You could duplicate a lot of the lesson, but the pacing of that lesson is different for those kids who are in that classroom versus remote. So it gets complicated. The other thing that we're dealing with, so while we have laptops throughout the entire district that have the webcams, there are some restrictions locally in bandwidth. And it's not a Dare County Schools issue, it's again, this is above my technology pay grade, but it really has to do with the bandwidth and piping from the school to homes, okay? And Dr. McBride has talked to MCNC, I forget that acronym. Anyways, MCNC is an organization in the state that oversees a lot of infrastructure, the piping of internet connectivity, and so on. And because we are not in a high poverty district, we are very low on the priority list for expanding bandwidth. So, long story short, is in Dare County Schools, because of the bandwidth that we have access to. And keep in mind, we've been lucky with 5,000 kids, well, not all at one time, but somewhere between 2,500 and 3,000 kids who are online at one time, that we've still done pretty well in being able to deliver high-speed delivery, okay? Our capacity to do synchronous instruction because of the community bandwidth issues is, and it's no shot at the community, it's just the way that North Carolina prioritizes upgrades based upon poverty levels and some other formulas. Am I doing okay here, Ashley? Thank you. Like she's gonna tell me otherwise. So, yeah. So we can deliver up to about 150 synchronous classrooms at one time, okay? But the primary reason that we're not doing as much synchronous is, we're not gonna do, 500 classrooms, is because the pacing is different based upon the program, and it's not always best. A lot of times, if I record a lesson, if I'm a student and I'm getting 20 minutes of direct instruction, as opposed to sitting there for an hour and a half, and the teacher's in and out, and I can't hear the other kids, it's much more conducive to my learning style if I can get the 20 minutes or a recorded lesson that's directed towards me, and then I get in activities, and then I can communicate with the teacher and my supports and needs. So it's very complicated. It's well beyond bandwidth, and it's actually more about instructional delivery and scheduling. So because we've got this broad array of high school courses that we have to offer, and there's a limited number of big core courses where only 10 middle and high school teachers are teaching, we have to now go to about 14 teachers in Dare County Schools to ask them to teach during a planning period in order to cover the instructional delivery that needs to happen via virtual. So we're in the process. Elementary, we've spoken to every teacher who's applied and teachers who will be accepted and asked to take assignments. And today up until 5 o'clock this evening or well beyond, we were in contact with all our middle and high school teachers in talking about what our needs were and what their interest was in the different scheduling opportunities that we had put before them. So we are asking teachers in Dare County Schools to do a lot. Well, and if you just take all the sanitizing, all the new structures in school, I have to now teach remotely, and I have to deliver face-to-face, and now we're serving virtual kids, and some of our traditional teachers are going to be giving up planning periods. You can start to understand the asks. We also have some administrators in this room, because of need, who were exemplary teachers who actually volunteered to teach some classes so that we can cover every single need in the district. So our 1,000 staff members are going well above and beyond, and many of them, we're asking them to do things that is a significant challenge. But it's very tricky, and what actually gets trickier for us is if we have this these waves where more kids are going into virtual or in the other direction, because it impacts how we're going to serve them, it impacts class sizes, and so if we get into a position where, and I hope we have no cases, okay? Pray that we don't. But I think the educated guess is we're going to get some, and if we get kids going both ways, then we have to go back to our big drawing board to figure out how we're going to serve them. It is possible, if there's a significant number of parents who do opt for virtual, we may need some 2 to 3 day lag time to figure out how we're going to serve those kids. And again, we may be in a position where we're asking staff members to do more than what's reasonable. So, our job has to be as prepared as possible, and I do think that the upside that we have versus a lot of other districts across the state of North Carolina, particularly northeastern North Carolina, our bar for effectiveness as teachers is way up here. And if you're at home, That's like a 95% rate of exemplary teachers, which is unheard of in the state of North Carolina. Okay? So I can sleep at night even though we have to move 190 elementary kids to another teacher, knowing that they're getting a great teacher. There's not a lot of other school districts that could try to pull this off and still have the ability to have an effective teacher in front of kids, and we can say that. Mr.
John, this is Joe Tarver. How do you plan on utilizing substitute teachers in this scenario?
Yep,
or the
good
scenario?
question. So right now, we are trying to avoid asking substitute teachers to teach any of the core classes or the schedules that, I've touched on here tonight. We think that as long as we can, we're approaching teachers to ask them to go the extra mile, and knowing Dare County school teachers are going to step up. We're trying to avoid asking certified substitute teachers right now to take a class or to cover a certain subject, because we know that we're going to have a need for their typical role, which is stepping in when teachers need to be out and they're sick or their family members are sick. And then we also know that there could be some impacts in quarantine. So if staff members have to be quarantined, if they are able, if they're asymptomatic, they could still perform their duties remotely. If they can't, then we need a substitute. So we're trying to plan this array of all these scheduling options without necessarily tapping in and going to a retired teacher who's certified. That could be a backup plan, particularly if there's some overflow into virtual. But right now, we're trying to schedule everything without getting into our substitute teachers. But we know that there's going to be some heavy asks and need for our substitute teachers. And again, we're fortunate we have several that are certified.
So you have some contingency plans, perhaps, in terms
Well,
of utilization?
yeah, we're day by day contingent, Joe. Yeah.
It's all good.
Yeah.
Thank you.
John, this is B. Bass Night. Are we planning any training for substitutes with the
Yes.
possibility that they may come in and be virtual teachers?
Yes, so thank you for that. So we're training almost every category of employee. So we've got a training session with new standards in sanitizing for custodians. And I'm attending all these, at least to give the charge of the day. Some of these sessions are 4 or 5 hours. Custodians are getting training. We're having training with our bus drivers. We are, Ms. Kinsel's going to lead up training our substitute teachers. Dr. McBride and some of our excellent instructional facilitators have been developing training for all the virtual teachers, and we'll have an orientation day for those teachers that are in that program. And so just about every single category, we've got some level of training that's going on over the next 10 days.
Good, thank you.
So this is really complicated and a lot of moving parts.
Yeah,
So
11 schools and moving parts, you're right.
So happy to take any other questions the board may have.
Dr. Farley, Frank Hester, when you're talking about the training for the substitute teachers and stuff, is that something that is that going to be done remotely too, to try to maximize the number of substitutes compared to?
Yeah, good question. So every training that we've actually provided since March 13th has been a combination of face-to-face and/or remote delivery. So, we still have some although, as you know, in our last board meeting, we had a pretty good return rate we were pleased with. 75% of our subs who were polled, which was about 75% of our subs, said that they would still return to work. So what we're trying to do, because teleworking or working from home is an option from the state on almost every category, substitute teachers are the same way. So we will offer a combination of remote and face-to-face, depending upon their preference. And not only, and you talk about substitute training, we've got to train substitutes on the same kind of training we got to provide with teachers, with sanitizing classrooms, checking procedures at the doorway, lunch, breakfast, transitions in the hallway, safety procedures. If you're virtual, what that looks like. So it's pretty comprehensive.
It's a heavy lift for sure. I did have B. Bass Night speaking. One other question on the drop-off if the parents walk their elementary students to a spot, how will we know that they've answered those 3 questions? We had talked a little bit about when the parents drive through, they could show it on their phone,
Yeah.
but how will we do that?
Sure. So, so our first goal is to get everyone registered so we can get them in the database. Okay.
Right.
We've sent home a flyer. I've sent home an explanation. We're going to send home a video, and we're also going to send home protocols. So our concept is whether you walk your child or not, we're not going to do the phone check. We talked about the phone
you're
check
not?
as an
Okay.
idea. So the idea is that a text message will go out every morning, and we're going to talk with the development research team with our partner about running reports. But the concept really is between 6 a.m. and about 7:15 a.m., we're asking our stakeholders to answer the 3 questions via text. And the reason we start to cut off at 7:15 is we start to have kids who are entering school campuses at 7:15. So that's about our window. I don't want to send the text message too early. One of the questions we talked about today, we're going to ask the platform research team is, do we have an ability to resend a question if they don't answer? We know that we can get reports, so we can set up every roster across the district. Mrs. Smith's 3rd grade, the First Flight Middle School football team, the tennis team at First Flight High School. And we have all these rosters, and then we have an ability to then get a notification, a summary report when the time ends conceptually, to then have a roster of those who have not answered the question. What we're trying to figure out logistically with the web developers, the platform developers, is what's our ability to, within a certain period of time, maybe resend the text. We're trying to think about protocols if they don't answer the questions and they show up at the schoolhouse. Logistically, when the time is cut off, we should have a roster of kids who've not answered, but then it becomes a question of trying to intercept them at the door. And so we may be chasing some kids down and calling parents. I think once we have a very affluent community and we have high response rates for any time that we send out something that's technology related, fortunately. I don't anticipate a lot of gaps with that. They get a notification if they answer no or yes to one of those questions and they're asked to stay home. So we get that notification. The big thing there could be some kids who, someone stationed out front does a pickup on them, or the child's name isn't on the list and they get through. We can track them down. We're going to get them on a temperature check. So if their symptom is, high temperature, they're going to be quarantined as soon as they hit the door. So we're trying to think through all the little logistical things, but the concept really is going to be that hour and 15, hour and a half period of time to do that. And then come up with some modes of backup because we know we'll have situations. But we're fortunate because not a lot of school districts have got $90,000 invested in thermal units, thank you, commissioners, and had the wherewithal to go and try to be as efficient as possible with this kind of text system.
This is Margaret Lawler. Because the kids are under 18, is that why the parents have to sign? Or if they're 16 or 17, can they vouch for themselves for the 3 questions?
Great question. So it's really not an age related. So our high school principals, so we felt strongly K-8 parents. There's not really an age requirement. Our high school principals, in getting their input, stated that we know that while most kids have phones, not all of them do. And so then their parents would need to get the text. But then we also know that there's a lot of kids who do have cell phones, most kids do, and they might be more liable to answer a text message versus mom or dad, and it depends upon their situation and who the guardians are in the house. So our principals prefer, what's that?
Could they just go to the student and the parents?
They have to go to one or the other.
Okay.
And in the registration process, you can also opt to get an email if that's your style of communication. So, if you have a cell phone where you're not receiving text messages, then you've got the email option.
Dr. Farley, Frank Hester. I hate to even mention the word hurricane, but let's say hurricanes.
Frank, come on.
Frank, please.
Bring. I know you guys are tough, but have you guys? I know you have thought through the process with that. Because it seems like well, I guess the short answer is, in a situation like that with inclement weather, schools close.
Yep.
Does that mean virtual and?
No, good question, Frank. So, a lot of times, we get well advanced warning, 4 or 5 days in advance in anticipation. And, as you know, sometimes we're closing down certain parts of the county and taking a commissioner's lead or the former control group. So if we close school and we have plenty of advance notice, regardless of the model, we can put machines or devices in kids' hands and we can opt to go remote. Now, some of that'll be remote on the fly, although 6-12, we're already teaching remotely. And we've been through now almost 5 months of teaching remotely, and our teachers are well adaptable and flexible, and we'll be able to do that. That's actually even more relevant in the possibility of having to quarantine kids. And so if kids got to be quarantined for 14 days, then they're going to be in some remote mode of instructional delivery. And so we're prepared either way.
I knew you would be.
Well, the 7 or 8 senior leadership team members here, it was much of a hand in everything that we're doing, as I do in all of our building principals, assistant principals. So I couldn't be more proud of the team and the collaborative way that we approach things, because we got a lot of great minds. Okay, so we're going to continue. There's a lot of information that's going to continue to go home over the next couple of weeks. I try to, even though I still do it, not send a 9-point email, even though I sent one at 4 o'clock today. But continue to emphasize communication. Our parent, we get a lot of really good feedback about how often we communicate and being transparent. We'll continue to do that on a daily basis. And really, it's, we're in uncharted territory and it's a fluid situation. And so, we're transparent and proactive communicators, and that's what our public expects, and we deliver.
This is B. Bass Night. You absolutely do deliver, and my thanks, and I'm sure the whole board will join me in thanking you and telling you how grateful we are for what you've done, your leadership team, our principals, everybody in our schools. And yes, we're putting a really large task in front of our teachers, and there's no doubt that they will rise to the occasion and they will do an absolutely amazing job, as they always do. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right. Thank you for that very comprehensive report on the reopening of schools. We're excited about it. Under our unfinished business, which is the next item on the agenda, we have the second reading of the proposed policy manual updates that are related to the new Title IX regulations, and Ms. Kinzel is going to walk us through that. Thank you.
Good evening, Madam Chair, members of the board, Dr. Farley. 7 years ago, I present.
True.
It seems that way, doesn't it? These policies have probably been the most comprehensive and most analyzed in the history of our policy process. I want to thank our friends from Schwartz and Shaw for their support and their help in doing so. The policies that I'm presenting to you tonight for second read are in their that's right, the second read. They are in their final format at our last meeting. Mr. Shaw went through and enumerated several small typographical or grammatical errors that needed to be fixed. They have been fixed. We received a notice that some of the legal references needed to be adjusted, so they've been adjusted. The general content of all of the policies, though, has not changed at all since the last presentation. So with that, if you don't have any questions, we would recommend that the board adopt these policies as presented this evening.
Madam Chair, David Twitty. I move that we adopt the policy manuals updates as presented.
It's a motion on the floor from Mr. Twitty.
Second.
And, okay, a second from Ms. Lawler and Ms. Balance. We have seen them a lot. Any further discussion?
Yeah, this was intense.
Yes,
Tell
tell me.
This was really, I mean, when Brian first came or not Brian, when Rich first came and did that presentation for us, and then, holy cow, that was huge. So thank you. Yeah, thank you so much for your hard work on this, Sandy.
Yes.
I know it's been a
I
bear
have
with
gray
everything
hairs
else that's
named
been
after
going
Title
on.
IX.
Yeah.
That's right. No, it's a team effort, truly. I concur with everything Dr. Farley has said. Even the policies are a team effort, so we thank you.
It was a great job. No further discussion. I will ask everyone who's in favor of adopting these policy manual updates, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thanks again to the whole team for what you've done. Let's see. The next item on the agenda is new business, and tonight we have a presentation that comes from a request from a group to keep the native mascot a name for the Manio, I'm assuming Manio High School and Manio Middle School. And Dr. Parker's getting us set up. This is a virtual presentation.
And Madam Chairman, we have a video that will play here, and we're queuing that up, so if you give us just 1 minute, we'll be ready.
In September, we had a presentation from the Change the Mascot group, and tonight we are hearing the presentation from the Save the Mascot group.
Yes, ma'am. Everyone will be able to hear and see.
Those of you
Hi, my name is Missy Twine McPherson. I'm a Dare County native, MHS class of 1988, and a proud Redskin. I'm asking you to save our Manio Redskins. It is about pride and honor. It is about tradition, and it is about heritage. I'm asking you to help us educate and not eradicate. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ronald Meekins. I'm a 1955 graduate of Manio High School. I retired, I moved back home. I went to work with the Park Service, and while I was there, I was a history interpreter of Fort Raleigh National Historic Site. I have the information that you're about to get from Carol will be the truth based on facts.
I am Carol Meekins, 1956 graduate of Manio High School. I was a cheerleader and a basketball player. I am now going to be reading to you the history of Chief Manio. Manio was a Native American Croatan, the chief of a local tribe that befriended the English explorers who landed at Roanoke Island in 1584. In 1585, the English returned to Roanoke, arriving too late in the year to plant crops and harvest food. And Manio helped the colonists make it through the harsh winter. He traveled to England on 2 occasions, in 1584 and 1585. After staying there, he was among those who sailed for the New World in 1587, along with Governor John White and his colonists, and who founded the failed settlement known as the Lost Colony. On Sunday, August the 13th, 1587, Manio was christened on Roanoke Island, making him the first Native American to be baptized into the Church of England. Manio was essential to the English Native American communications during those early voyages to and explorations of the New World organized by Raleigh. The relationship that Manio shared with the English serves as an early example of positive racial and cultural relations in North America, and also as a unique example of race relations within the context of the Western civilization. Manio was a trusted friend, teacher, and guide to the English settlers, while remaining loyal to his native people during early American history, when English and Native American relations were highly unstable. Manio is one of the foremost examples of positive race relations in early American history. The history of the Manteo Redskin mascot. Manteo High School was established in 1913. The earliest known picture that shows the Redskins mascot is from a 1937 from the Manawan, which was a yearbook at that time. The Lost Colony production started in 1937. The name Redskins about was to pay tribute to the island's past history and pay homage to the Redskin tribe that was here with Chief Manteo and Chief Wanchese. Over 80 years, the Manteo Redskins mascot was brought a sense of pride to our community. The alumni and the citizens of this community, it is more than a name. It is a deep-rooted connection to the place that we call home. We are all Redskins.
Hello, my name is Sam Cage. I'm an Outer Banks native and a current honors student and athlete at Manteo Middle School. I will graduate as a Redskin in the class of 2025. I wish to remind the Board of Education that my education in Native American culture has not been ignored. Starting at MES, we take field trips to Roanoke Island Festival Park, where we interactively learn about local tribes, longhouses, crops, and fishing techniques. It is a tradition to attend a daytime show of the Lost Colony, which presents both sides of history. Many local children act in the drama as both Indian and colonial children. In 4th grade, Indian culture is part of the North Carolina Essential Standards and Social Studies. In middle school, this education continues in Social Studies 8, explaining how Indian cultures have been influenced both North Carolina and United States history. Our education in Native American history is alive and well. It is as important to us as the English colonial history on Roanoke Island. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Ivy Cage, and I'm a Manteo Brave class of 2018 and a Manteo Redskin class of 22. I'm a Dare County native, born in Nags Head in 2003. My education in Native American history was continued in my American History 1 class. I'm in my 6th year as a Manteo athlete and have traveled extensively through North Carolina and Virginia as a club softball player. I have never heard the Redskin name used as a slur from any team, including my own. In fact, I've never heard it used or mentioned. If the Dare County Board of Education feels the need to defend our mascots to the uninformed public, I propose we add an announcement at all home games after the national anthem similar to this. Manteo High School wishes to remind you that our school mascots were chosen in the 1930s to convey our pride and respect for the Croatan Indians, who were the original and first residents of Dare County. Thank you for your consideration of my opinion. I value diversity. Please do not erase our identity because of the current trend to cancel the past.
In 2017, Supreme Court voted and allowed us to keep our mascot. To be a Redskin is not to taunt, but is to show pride and respect to our local community and heritage. I'm Ella Spencer, and I'm proud to be a Manteo Redskin.
Keely Harrison, class of 2021, proud to be a Redskin. Keep our name.
Manteo High School, class of 2013, proud to be a Redskin.
John Whiteside, class of 2000, proud to call myself a Manteo Redskin.
Okay, hey, I'm Jill Ware, and I am proud to be a Redskin class of 87.
Hi, I'm Nicole Thrash, class of 1987, and proud to be a Redskin. Woo!
Hey, I'm Judith Fearing. I am a proud Redskin, class of 1986. Go Redskins!
Bruce Creef, class of 1970. Had 5 children that graduated as Redskins, and I would strongly urge keeping it that way. Thank you.
Greg Creef, class of 78.
Manny a Redskin.
I'm Roy Ambrose, and I'm a Redskin, class of 1987.
I'm Arturo Lara, proud Mania Redskin, class of 2016.
Whenever you're ready. Robert Midget, class of 1968, proud Mania Redskin.
Hi, my name is Sweet Pea Tillett, and I am a 1987 Mania Redskin graduate. And whoo!
Hey, I'm Justin Bateman, senior class president of Manio High School class of 2003, and I'm dang proud to be a Manio Redskin.
My name is Joel Midget. I'm a Dare County native and member of the class of 2012. I'm a proud Manio Redskin. I want to leave you with this. Red Mesa High School, located on the largest Native American reservation, 99.3% Native Americans call themselves the Redskins.
Good evening. I'm Jeff Landreth. My wife and I have lived on Roanoke Island for approximately 18 years. As a part of that 18 years, 9 years of that was spent coaching the offensive line for the Manio Redskins. And during this time that we lived here, I never heard a single incident of a slur or any degrading comment regarding Redskins. The Redskin term denotes toughness, deliverance. It denotes having a compassion for others as long as they're not abused. Now, if you live on Roanoke Island and the towns are Manio and Wanchese, you have surrounding areas, the Roanoke, the Croatan, Pamlico. It's just a natural fit for the Redskin terminology to be attached to the football team. Our country is at a stage now to where we are slowly but surely destroying our historical icons and in fact our actual history. Would hope that this is not going to be another incident of that, and that you as a board will give due diligence to the importance of particularly historical names. Thank you for your consideration and good time, and I look forward to hearing of a great outcome of this deliberation. Thank you.
We're back live.
Thank you, and thank you to the presentation by the Keep the Native Mascot Name group. I'd like to just make a personal statement myself after seeing this presentation and the presentation we had in September. They were both excellent presentations on the Manio mascots, and I appreciate the enthusiasm and the effort each group devoted to their positions. I, like probably all of you on this board, have received a tremendous amount of communication from across Dare County, and particularly from the Roanoke Island and mainland communities, the district which I am a representative of on the board. They are overwhelmingly, as you can see in the presentation, passionate about preserving the heritage of the Redskins mascot. The Redskins name was chosen out of respect and honor for the Native Americans who once lived on the very grounds of Roanoke Island and throughout Dare County. While that's very important, I think, in this decision, I am thinking about our students, and I think that every single person on this board and our staff, we always put our students first. Our students walked out of school on March the 13th, and they've not returned yet. They've lost so much. Our seniors who left last year missed their proms, they missed their traditional graduations, although we had very nice individual graduations, they missed their traditional graduations. Our students have not been able to come together and bond as classmates this year. And I think it's not the wisest decision for us to consider taking one more thing away from our students. So I would like to take any consideration of a name change off the table at this time and continue to keep the Redskins name for the Manio High School and the Braves for Manio Middle School. And I would entertain any other comments, but I just wanted to make that statement. That would be my position.
Madam Chair, David Woody here. I too have heard from a lot of folks in our community, and it's respectful and honor and heritage of the Redskins. I am a Redskin, class of 1988, and I am proud to sit here and serve the community as I have in the last 4 years to make things right for our students and staff. So I'd have to agree with you about tabling this, and let's keep the Redskin name.
Thank you, Mr. Twitty.
Madam Chair, Frank Hester. I'm also a graduate of Manio High School, along with my brother and sister, who are also athletes at Manio High School. I also have the distinction of being actually connected to the Native American tribe. So we're still here. Mm-hmm. Not necessarily, sometimes that gets looked past. And I received a lot of information on both sides of the topic, both inside of Roanoke Island and outside from other countries, not other countries, other states, talking about the situation. And I think sometimes you can see the passion on both sides of the subject. So it is real to each side. I see that, I understand that. I also understand that, like you were saying, B, we're in the midst of dealing with the coronavirus and trying to get our kids back to school. And that although this discussion could probably go on some more, but I also feel it's not the right time to do that in the midst of what we're trying to do to get the kids back in school. It's an honor for me to be connected to this island, and to be able to lose any connection with the Native Americans would be traumatic, I think. And I think one thing in talking with the chief that may get lost in some of the conversations, one thing that she told me that stuck with me is that the Native Americans are more than a mascot. So although we all embrace representing Manio in a great way, I have yet to find an athlete that felt that they were less than. They were proud to represent the concept, the thought of representing Manio, the warrior spirit, and the doing the little side check. Yes, all right. But It's a tough decision, but I do agree that we should not continue this at this time, but focus on some other things that can help to bring unity and less discord at this time. Thank you.
I appreciate that, Frank. B. Bass Knight speaking.
Madam Chair, this is Harvey Hess. As a former Manio High School teacher, a current Dare County School Board member, longtime resident of Dare County, former coach at Manio High School, and parent of 3 children who went to Manio High School. I am deeply concerned about the current proposition by certain people and groups that are insisting and demanding that Americans and their communities in this turbulent time should be rushed into or even intimidated into erasing their local and regional heritage, even their national history, culture, and traditions. It is regretful that some localities and organizations have conceded to the pressure from people who are determined to make every effort to do away with the very idea of our American traditions and local traditions. The proud history of our island town, its students, and our community as a whole should not be erased, notwithstanding the attempt by people from lots of other places across this country to try and instill their beliefs on our community. With that in mind, I am in full accordance with the vote, if we should have a vote or the tabling of the motion to keep our traditional name and means keeping our high school and middle school mascots as they are, and in the proud tradition of honoring our Native American heritage. Last note on that would be that there are multiple high schools on Native American reservations in America that have Redskins as their mascots and continue to have them and keep them. And I would almost like to say, I'd like a positive say we're going to keep it, but if you just want to table it, I can.
No.
I would after thinking, I would make a motion that we positively keep the name as it is. But I mean, let other people discuss first, if there's anybody else.
Okay. B. Bass Knight, but we recognize other board members right now, if they want to say anything.
Mary Ellen Balance. I'm the wife of a commercial fisherman, the mother of a commercial fisherman, and have only been a member of this community for 22 years now in Hatteras. So I have a very good understanding of the heritage of this island and this county, and it is deep and it is strong. And I would fight to the ends of the earth to protect, and I do. I serve on multiple commercial fishing things, and I fight tooth and nail. But I have to agree with B, at this time, when we're trying to get our kids focused on school, get our teachers focused back on school, I think it would be best to table this issue for the time being, allow the Braves and the Redskins to remain the same, and move forward with trying to get our kids back in a normal, whatever the new normal is, and get them back in focused.
Turn your mic on. Oh, it's on.
You're still up, Margaret.
It's green.
Ooh. A lot of feed.
Do I start over?
All right. This is Margaret Lawler. I have lived on the Outer Banks for over 30 years, and I have a daughter that went to Manio Middle and High School, and a son that almost graduated, but then they opened up first flight. And I truly believe we should keep it, and I agree so much we don't need to do another thing to these kids that are coming back to school. And one of the things that really had an impact for me with all the letters was the gentleman that wrote us from Cortland, Virginia, and he was a Indian chief. And he said, please don't change the name. Every time you do that, we lose a little bit more of the knowledge and the output of people knowing about American Indians or Native Americans. And I just thought that was so impactful. And then someone else from his tribe also sent a letter just saying, don't, because every time it's changed, we disappear a little bit more. So, and if the local people want it, I am not going to fight them.
Thank you, Ms. Lawler. Mr. Tauber?
Yes, Joe Tauber here. I think that the name of the mascots given by the community was a well thought out one given its cultural situation, and that the name of the Braves for the middle school and Redskins for the high school was to honor the heritage and history of the community. And when I attend something at Manio High School and at the middle school, that it just brings a great amount of joy to the people to have those mascots and know their heritage and know their history. And for those reasons, I am not inclined to change the mascots at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Tauber. B. Bass Knight here. I agree with what everyone has said, as you've agreed with me, I guess. I think that I did not graduate from Manio High School, but I did teach at Manio Elementary School. So we were growing the Braves and the Redskins there. My husband, however, was a Manio Redskin and played sports, and so the name means a lot to the community. It is what they see as their heritage, and they're very proud of it. And I am happy. I mean, my position would be to keep the name. But it's at the pleasure of the board as to if you want to just table any consideration now or move forward.
This Harvey Hess, I would like to make a motion, a positive motion, to endorse our keeping the names of Manio High School and Manio Brave mascots for our community to know that we stand fully behind them and we're not just putting this off or kicking the ball down the field.
Okay, there's a motion on the floor from Mr. Hess.
Second by Mr. Tauber.
And a second by Mr. Tauber. Is there any further discussion?
I guess I'm always the fly in the ointment. Frank Hester here. I think we should table the subject for the reason being is that we need to focus on getting the kids back in school. I believe that the name should stay, but at the same time, I believe that to be able to prove that each side had a chance to, I guess, prove their point, that all that information comes together and thoroughly look at it and ask a bunch of questions to make I don't want to say a rash decision because it's not, because that's in my heart also, but I'm also trying to see the other side of the coin. And that, to me, all the energy and effort that was put into supporting and to remove it, it was there. And to do that justice, I think we need to come back at another time to possibly deal with that. But right now, I think you should table it and let's get the kids back in school and focus on that. Just a thought.
Anyone else?
With all due respect, Frank, Mr. Hester, I think that we've looked at this considerably over a long period of time and looked at both sides of it, and we've listened to the opposing, the people in favor of changing the name or getting rid of our name, and the people for keeping it. And I would like our community to feel like their board could positively endorse keeping that name, and so my motion stands.
Okay. I want a point of reference, Mr. Shaw. Since the name is the Redskins, and we are not doing anything to change what it already is, do we need a motion to retain the name?
This is Brian Shaw, board attorney. You certainly do not need a motion to retain name. There's nothing inappropriate in having a motion endorsing the current names, if that's the pleasure of the board.
And that was my point, is that it was endorsing the retention of the name.
Endorsing it, which also, if we endorse it now, does not mean it cannot, something cannot come up later.
Absolutely, something can change later,
And
but
as we study it and look, something could change, but you're endorsing keeping the name.
it's a positive,
currently.
it's a positive motion to show that our community, that we endorse keeping the name and not just tabling it. Yes.
And I'm still seconding. the
While we
motion.
are doing, as Mr. Hester said, and Ms. Balance and a lot of us have said, while we are trying to get our students back in school, and a lot of things are going on for our staff and for us. So the motion has been made by Mr. Hess. I think he's explained his motion. Mr. Tauber has seconded. Anyone else like to chime in? Okay. All in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Thank you. All right. Good discussion. And the next item under new business is our revised 2020-2021 academic calendar. Ms. Kinzel.
Yes. Madam Chair, thank you. This too may seem a little deja vu-ish. A little punchy tonight, but at our the special meeting, October 1st, and folded into the 6 options presented for the board to consider for returning to school, Dr. Farley offered a modified calendar, and you voted to adopt that. In that calendar, we added 3 work days to help us with transition. As you can imagine, in preparing for 6 options, the calendar was kind of not the main focus, but we put those dates in there, and in error, we weren't thinking about the work day that was also put in there for parent-teacher conferences. So after it was published, we received some information and feedback from staff as well as parents, and kind of asked, since we were phasing in our students, could that day not be moved to a more conducive time, allowing us to be able to have some consistency created in our return to school before we took another break. So with that, we're presenting to you a revision to the calendar where we have moved the required workday parent conference from the 30th of October to December 2nd, which is about a month later, and it falls during the week of interim reports. So we feel like that would be a good place for us to be able to sit down with parents and discuss progress at that time, and having had some days under our belts back in the system. So we would recommend that the board choose to adopt this hopefully final revision to the 2020-21 calendar.
Fancy microphone working, Dr. Farley.
You're going through some microphones tonight.
I think we need to put some new mics in the budget.
Can COVID cover that?
Yeah, can COVID carry that?
Microphones 3, Farley nothing. The new day is also Wednesday, or we wouldn't have kids in for face-to-face instruction, so that also is another consideration.
I'll entertain a motion. That's a motion by Mr. Twitty to adopt the revised 2020-21 academic calendar as presented, and a second from Ms. Balance. Any discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? The motion carries unanimously. And thank you for catching that and getting that so it works for our teachers. Yeah, I know. It's your turn. You're done, okay. Good thing, because I think your microphone's done too.
Madam Chair, before we run out of microphones, make a motion we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion to adjourn by Mr. Twitty and a second from Ms. Balance. The discussion for me is to thank all of you, everyone in this room who has worked so hard and has done, you have done such an amazing job, get us back where we need to be, and I appreciate it very much. Yes.
And Harvey has one last thing. I want to really thank the community for getting the information to us about the positive things about our community and about our high school and middle school, and the people were out here with this afternoon in to show us how concerned they were and how much they loved the traditions that were there. So I think those people are indicative of the Dare County community, and I want to thank them for what they've done.
Thank you, Mr. Hess. And I think you're right. It is indicative. We take care of our communities, and we and I'm just, this is B speaking. I'm appreciative of all the communication from our community, our parents, our students, on all the issues that we've been dealing with, because I think that's the way we know what's going on. And I encourage our parents and families to communicate and contact us with their concerns. So I appreciate that. I'll call for the vote. All in favor of adjourning, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Thank you.